Hey everyone, it's another quick book review, and as you can see, this is Casino Royale, the first book of the legendary character of James Bond. I bought this along with, I think, all, or at least most of the Bond books, and obviously I'm going to start at the start. And interestingly, I have a particular affinity for the Casino Royale film. I think it's an excellent film. So starting at Casino Royale, made some fascinating comparisons. It's a fairly basic little paperback, nothing particularly special, but also no notable flaws or obvious silliness that modern publishing just can't seem to get away from these days. So yeah, the first big shock in Casino Royale is Spectre doesn't exist. It's not Spectre. It's Smersh, which is a fantastically bad word, but there it is. And Smersh, if I'm remembering correctly, was a shorthand form of spionum, which the Living Daylights Bond film tells me is Russian for deaf to spies. So, yeah, the whole angle of Spectre and the private organisation that is Spectre is actually Soviet Russia in this, operating through Smersh. And it's just kind of fascinating because Bond works with NATO, like out and out NATO versus Soviet Russia's Smersh. But for that colossal difference, and there are differences, many of them, there's many familiar things in Casino Royale. So Le Chiffre, the bad guy, Felix Leiter's appearance, and Mathis, all pretty much true to the film, and what I was expecting of them. Due to the Soviet setting, it feels remarkably older. I mean, obviously it was written a long time ago, but it's everything about it is older. The language, the worldview, the nations, the technology, the opinions, like they're all just older. Everything's a few steps backwards, not necessarily in a bad way, but it takes some getting used to. There's an awful lot of, there's not an awful lot, there's some French in this book, and I think it was probably written again in a time where people were more bilingual, especially the educated, like Ian Flemming. So yeah, there's an awful lot of French terms and French phrases and sentences that you don't have to translate them to carry on and understand, but yeah, that happened. One of the most fascinating things and changes for me was that the Aston Martin doesn't get a look in, and the car that Bond favours so heavily is a Bentley. And it's not, because of the old school saying, it's not like a modern car in any way. It's like an open-wheeled, old school Bentley, pretty much similar to the look of the classic Chitty Chitty Bang Bang car, because Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was written by Ian Fleming. So I think Ian Fleming just really likes those kind of old open-wheeled cars, and that's what Bond drives in this. It's a Bentley, it's not the Aston Martin. So there's another character who was in the film, obviously, is Vesper. Massive part of the story is Vesper. Portrayed, obviously, by Eva Green, unforgettably Eva Green, in the film. But Vesper was very nicely handled in this book. She's obviously kind of breaking ground as a woman where there wouldn't normally be a woman. There is a very funny turn of phrase on page, I think it's 126, where Bond sees Vesper kind of get into trouble, and he just starts a little rant about how women should be in the kitchen with the pots and pans. It just really made me laugh. You aren't going to get that kind of line in any modern publishing thing. It's just phenomenal. But yeah, that's more comparative. Another big change in this book to the film. In the film, it's poker. In the book, it's baccarat. Now, since I read this book, I have watched quite a lot of the older Bond films, and there is a lot of baccarat in the older Bond films. And I don't think I ever twigged that as a youth watching the Bond films. I just thought, cards, whatever. And then I learnt poker, and everyone loves poker, and that seemed to be the way. But it's all baccarat. And baccarat is explained in this book by Ian Flemming, who I think the opening word says, like, people aren't going to know what baccarat is and how it was played. So he kind of takes the time to explain it to you. And it's a very nice explanation. It's very well done. It's just not particularly popular these days. So yeah, the entire Casino Royale book runs very close to the film. There's a major difference really in the opening and the closing. The opening in the film is obviously very modern, and the closing in the film is very action-packed. You don't really get that in the book. It's a much quieter, much less action-based Bond. But there's some real standout moments, like the torture scene is fairly brutal, as it is in the film. It's portrayed pretty much the same here. And after the torture scene, you get a broken version of Bond, and ultimately a broken version of Vesper. But after the torture, Bond and Vesper really kind of fall for each other, and it's tragic that you don't get the Venice shootouts and this, that, and the other in the book, but you do get a rather tragic Vesper taking her own life and then writing a letter to Bond, and Bond handles it in the kind of Bond, like traditional Bondish way, and just kind of, resolves and says, right, I tried, carry on. But yeah, it was a really fascinating book, and to take something of a film that I love so much, and I can see so much of it in this book. So whoever adapted the book for the screen, full credit to them, because it was done really, really well. So yeah, I believe I will be carrying on with Live and Let Die, according to the back of the book, which is not the film's chronology, but there it is. I will follow the books, and we'll see what the next one's like. So yeah, if you've read Casino Royale, if you'd like to talk about it, or if you'd like to talk about Bond from the films or the books, then yeah, you know where I'll be. I'll be in the comments. Thanks very much, folks. Farewell.